Welcome back to another episode of Life is Art, a movie podcast. I'm Adam Garber, and I'm hosting with my lifelong friend, David Camacho. How are we feeling today, Dave?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
I am good. Today, we are going to be talking about a movie called Song Song Blue. This is I think it's a gem. It goes really deep. It's almost like a musical journey of a husband and wife team called Lightning and Thunder. They're a Neil Diamond tribute band, and it's set in Wisconsin, and it's almost like a roller coaster, Dave, because you get the highs of their success, their musical highs, and then you get the reality of the crashing in of their life. And it's buttressed by bookends of addiction and AA meetings. And it's a crazy mess of exhilaration and great music, with just real life catastrophe. Did you get some feelings from this? Did you get the feelings from this movie, Dave?
Yeah, it's a great film. It's based on a documentary that was made in 2008 about this couple that you mentioned who performed in and around Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They were local celebrities there, and they lived extraordinary lives. What I loved about this movie was that we don't get a lot of stories in American cinema from this socioeconomic strata of American society. These are the people who cut our hair, they fight our wars, and they struggle to entertain us. And I loved how real their story was. And having watched the same named documentary from 2008 just today, I can tell you that a lot of the details that were fictionalized in the film had antecedents in the documentaries. A lot of the details were carried over straight from the documentary. I was listening to an interview with the great actress Viola Davis the other day, and she had some incredible statistics about what it means to be an artist in America, right? 95% of the people who are professional actors in America don't work regularly. Of the 5% who work regularly, half of those people make less than $40,000 a year. So you have to be some kind of crazy to dedicate your life to the arts like this couple did. And you see the high price you pay when you do
But
that.
I think we wanted to, or I wanted to talk about what differentiates this movie because there have been a lot of movies about artists. You know, there was the Bob Dylan film, there was the Springsteen movie. There are all these anthologies that have come out recently that show the arc of some of our favorite artists, artists that really weren't my favorite. And I got to be honest, Dave, I hate Neil Diamond. I despise him. I think his works are just way too simple. Wait, I don't love the Americana stuff. But by the end of this movie, I was singing Song Song Blue. I was into it. It took me on this great journey. There's a great sequence in the movie where, as you know, my ex-wife, the mother of my child's name was Caroline. Sweet Caroline was definitely a big part of my life, and whenever it would come on, it meant something to the two of us. Wasn't a big Neil Diamond fan, but the song would come on, and I would fake it because I knew she loved it.
Hmm.
And there's a great way that Hugh Jackman's character he idolizes Neil Diamond, and he thinks that the way people look, they only want to hear Sweet Caroline. Every time they play, they want to hear Sweet Caroline, and he doesn't want to start off his first performance with that tune, even though he knows that's what the people want. He wants to start it off with Solomon, and he loves pronouncing Solomon, because a normal person would read and go, "Oh, it's Solomon." And he's like, no, it's Solomon. It's an
Yeah, it's
Arabic
not. It's
word.
it's not Solomon at all. Yeah, it's a different word completely.
Yeah, and it just has a spiritual meaning for him where he thinks it's going to create this flock that follows his band and his journey, and he's taking you on this experience, and there's like this mythic proportion to it. I felt that way. There was a lot of Springsteen songs that didn't really do it for me, but when I saw that movie and it went into the darkness and the deep emotional connection he had with that Nebraska album, it really meant a lot to me. And this did this exact same thing for me for Neil Diamond, that it took me to the deepness and the meaning behind some of his songs and got me through the Coming to America and the Sweet Caroline songs that to me were just too simple for me.
Yeah, I think there's something that you have to do as somebody who's interested in culture, which is to try to put yourself imaginatively back into the moment that these folks arrived on the scene, right? And like, what was life like before Neil Diamond first started to perform and write songs and after? And he came of age, when Tin Pan Alley was still a real thing in New York City. So songwriters would go there, and he tried for 8 years to break out of that. He was writing songs, just living hand to mouth, really doing the bohemian thing in New York City until finally he got a hit song and he was able to record it himself. He was writing songs for other people, including for the Monkees, because of the fact that the Beatles had established the singer-songwriter tradition with Lennon and McCartney, and people like Bob Dylan had broken ground right around then as well, and they got famous. He was able to make a career as a singer-songwriter, and I think that's the challenge for us because when we grew up, he's very much a boomer, and he's very much kind of, I guess, when we were kids, very schlocky and kind of the music that our parents would listen to, and so it was very uncool for us. But I like to go back. It took me a while to get into the Beatles for the same reason, and Dylan for the same reason, to just go back and when you skip a generation and you just try to imagine what was it like for him as a young man, and I think this film is great because it's reintroducing him as an artist to generations that have come of age since then who honestly have no idea who the man is. My daughter watched the movie with me and we listened to some of the tunes on Apple Music, and she had no idea whatsoever of this man's influence, his life, his artistry, etc. So, in that respect alone, I think is very valuable work.
I agree. And let's clarify for the listeners too. This is not a movie about Neil Diamond in any way. It's about Neil Diamond's music. These are impersonators that are singing Neil Diamond songs. And it's very interesting because the movie kind of gets you into that whole impersonator genre because he's a part of this impersonator kind of cult
Society.
almost group that does Buddy Holly. There's a great character in the movie called Sex Machine and has nothing to do with sex. He's just a really cool Richard Little impersonator.
No, 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 no. He's James Brown.
James
That's
Brown,
what the
sorry, yes,
film's
James
called,
Brown,
Sex
sorry.
Machine.
Yeah, and he has this great personality, and all these characters that are impersonators are a member of this group of which the Hugh Jackman Mike character is familiar with and friends with, and they go on a journey with him with his band that reaches a higher success than they do, and you can just feel the camaraderie of these people. They're almost like a cast of outcasts, like the Misfit Toys that all hang out
Yeah,
together and
yeah.
all have these experiences together and all have like the audience that wants certain things from them that they're used to feeling that where the audience wants to hear these favorite songs even though they want to go deeper into the artist collection. And I remember we talked about when we saw the Springsteen movie that they held on to Born in the USA for so long in the movie, and even when it played it was like a nothing because it had nothing to do with the music or with the movie's point. And I found like this one too, they could have expounded on the whole because there's this whole scene where he has, or this whole part of the movie where he talks, where he does this MC gig for this Thai restaurant. And
Right.
the owner of the Thai restaurant, I think, had a real connection with Neil Diamond. And in my eyes, I read into this, and I don't really know. I was kind of reading into it. So I kind of put this out there, but I felt like maybe the reason this guy really liked Neil Diamond is that whole "Coming to America" song, and it's so poignant right now with how we're treating immigrants in the world. That here's a guy that was singing a song about coming to America. We open arms, the Statue of Liberty, and we're almost burning that effigy right now and getting rid of it with Trumpism. But it seemed very relevant to me, and I noticed it. And he just loved Neil Diamond, the owner of this Thai place, and he
Yeah.
loved the sad songs. And there was that one moment where I guess it's the anniversary of where his wife, who died from lung cancer, um, they only sing sad songs that day, and his daughter comes into the restaurant after hour, and she's like, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're closed." She's like, "That's my dad up there singing," and she goes, and then she tells him the story. "Oh, this is the day that my mother died, so we only sing sad songs today." What really makes this movie big for me is not the highs, but the lows, and
Hmm.
the interesting part about their life. You could have just told the greatness of it. And I don't know how the documentary was. Was it documentary to tell the highs and the lows, Dave?
Oh yeah, very much so. Both.
It's an incredible story, and it keeps you at the edge of your seat because you just can't believe. And I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't seen the movie, but probably going to end up talking about it. So
Yeah,
if
it's
you haven't
spoiler
seen it, you
alert.
should see
We're
it.
gonna talk about everything in the film. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, then maybe you want to watch the movie or pause it and come back to us. But yeah, no, I thought that was poignant, Adam, that scene with the Asian man, because keep in mind, Mike was a tunnel rat in Vietnam, not 10 years prior to the events depicted in the film. You know, that was very poignant that these two men came together over music, over sad songs. They had a reconciliation of sorts. And I
It's
love the
even more
fact.
specific than that. These two men came together because of Neil Diamond, a love for
No,
Neil
yeah,
Diamond.
exactly. Over his particular music, and you know, you said earlier that the film wasn't about Neil Diamond, and that's very much so. And by the way, I think a lot of people are confused about that when they see the ads for this. It's like, well, is it Neil Diamond's story, but it's certainly not. It's about his art, but it's the story of this couple, right? So just to be clear, um, I thought one detail in the film I really liked was the video camera, right? So her son, Dana, from her previous marriage, is recording them around the house. He keeps popping up with his video camera, and didn't quite get it when I first saw the movie. Like, why is this such a prominent feature? Well, watching the documentary, I saw that the heart of the documentary is the footage from the kid, and
Wow.
that's why it opens with a sort of video, and then it closes with a video because he's, in a way, the guy who chronicled the story of his parents. And so it's without him and his contribution, we wouldn't have their story to fictionalize and watch in this new film.
To me, this is one of the biggest movies of the year. It really impacted me. I called you after the end of the movie, and I was almost crying in the bathroom.
It's a very touching film. It was released during Thanksgiving weekend, so it's been in theaters for a while. We're recording this in early to mid January, and I think that the reason it stuck around for several weeks, a pretty long time for the way at the rate most movies pass through my town at least, is that it's really resonating with people. I think it's a hit. I think a lot of people have seen it. You know, Hugh Jackman, he's been in a number of musicals and including The Greatest Showman, and he is just phenomenal. You see him when he performs in this role, you just see his eyes bugging out and his expressions, and he becomes the character. You know, he's got this amazing talent for just taking on somebody else's skin. And ditto for the woman playing Thunder. I forget her name. Do you remember by any chance?
It's Goldie Hawn's daughter. It's Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson, right. Kate
Yeah,
Hudson, phenomenal job. I mean,
phenomenal.
this lady has been in so many movies and TV shows, but man, she nailed that Wisconsin accent.
She
She
did.
was a joy to watch, you know, just her effusiveness, her aliveness, and the fact that she was so very in love with this man and he was just so very in love with her too. So that's the heart of the story is this love story.
The first night, they have kind of a date, I guess.
Yeah.
And she brings him back to her house. It's almost maybe it's a trailer. I'm not really sure, but
The
it's
apartment. It's
not
an apartment.
it's an apartment, but it's not that nice.
Yeah, yeah, they're poor. They're poor
And her
people.
grandmother and her mother lives there. Her
Right.
two kids live there, and she goes into her daughter's room, and she's like, I can feel the magic. And she's like, the magic might happen to you. That magic happens to you all the time, but the magic never happens to me. So
Yeah.
let me enjoy this.
Yeah.
So there's just something there. You could feel that there was a spark between these two. A lot of times people will say, "Oh, I couldn't have done this without the other person," but there was a way that these two smiled at each other that you could just see it on the screen, and there was just such a feeling, a deep feeling of love that was passed through the family at this, with their highs and their lows.
Yeah, that first night when they're hanging out and they come up with their stage names and they agree to perform together, they do a duet of a beautiful, beautiful song from Neil Diamond called "Play Me." It's a soft song, it's a love song. It's so charming, and just watching the two of them play that, making googly eyes at each other, was a joy. I mean, they're so beautiful. You know, the performances are really, really nuanced and believable. Another favorite part for me was after Thunder. So for people who haven't watched it, stop here. But there's an accident that happens about halfway through. And very improbable. Thunder's out gardening of all things, and a car just careens off the road and hits her. And because of the accident, she loses her part of her leg. And so the second part of the film is about that, about her recovery from this horrible accident, and in the medication, I thought a lot of the opioid crisis at this point, Adam, because it's so topical to where we're at today. But they give her a lot of meds, and she's all doped up, and she's like hanging out in the on the couch and watching TV, and they're arguing a lot, and their home life is going to hell, and it's a real sad part to see this family disintegrate like that. But there's a point where she has a dream. She sees some smoke coming through the doorway and she calls out Mike's name and he doesn't answer. So then she follows the smoke and lo and behold, she's on a stage and her body is whole and she's in a sparkly dress and she starts to sing one of her Patsy Cline numbers, I think. And
Yes.
she's beautiful and her voice is gorgeous because she really is actually this actress, Kate Hudson, is also a professional singer. She's released an album, came out last year. She's got an amazing voice. And so she sang in the film. And then you realize, about 2 minutes in that no, this is just a dream. She's on the front lawn in her nightrobe, in her bathrobe, on the ground, and her family's around her trying to get her back in the house and begging her to come inside. And so we go from this kind of like euphoric to this very tragic, sad situation. And that's the kind of roller coaster you were talking about before, Adam. This film, it really takes you up and down and up and down and up and down. So you got to be prepared for that if you're going to watch it and really take something from it.
And even through the roller coaster, the thing that keeps this family on the tracks is these AA meetings.
Hmm.
It's resonant through the entire movie. And the way it comes up isn't really in your face, but it definitely bookends the movies. I mean, the movie starts with an AA scene, and that's, I guess, his 20-year sobriety. They call it a
Birthday.
birthday each
Right.
year, the day of your that you start the sobriety, that you make it a year. And he's at 20 years in this point, and you can just tell that this guy's got history.
Oh
When they
yeah.
zoom in on his hands, he's a mechanic by day, and he does his impersonations at night. And when the camera zooms in, there's just so much grit and calluses on his hands.
Yeah.
And it's just, you mentioned this to me. It's just you don't get many films about real people. And
Yeah.
this movie was a film about real people. I mean, Kate Hudson had to really dull her look down for this. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She's maintained her beauty through the years, but she really had to dull herself down for this. The only time she looks goddess and pristine like is in that dream sequence when she's glittery and stuff.
There's a scene in the film where she's in her own therapy setting and the camera is zoomed right up close. I mean, you can see every pore on her face. I mean, I can imagine as an actor, like a terrifying moment because, you want to look good on camera. And here she is portraying a character at her low point, and she's completely without any artifice at all. Also, details from the documentary. Adam, I thought, okay, did Hugh Jackson write into there that he had to perform in his underwear not once but twice in the film? No, it's from the documentary. The guy, Mike, actually did perform on camera for his son in his underwear twice. So there's a detail that carried over. I like the fact in the movie you referred to the dirt under their fingernails at the start of the film. At the end of the film, once Mike has passed on to his eternal reward, we see his daughter doing what? Changing oil. Right. This is not his natural daughter, but his adopted daughter, changing oil in the from the car, and her hands are full of, grease and grime. So it's a callback to what the father was doing, and she sort of becomes his heir in a way. She and her sister are the sort of anchor for the family. He tells them at one point, you guys always know what to do. You always know what to do. And in a way, he's passing the torch to them to say, okay, you're going to carry this on and we're going to stay together as a family because of you.
I mean, the ending was so beautiful and it just kept going. There was beautiful moment after beautiful moment. I felt that it could have ended 5 minutes earlier. I
Hmm.
could felt like it could have just ended at the casket scene. But then you get another tidbit where where his adopted son puts in a tape of his 22nd, what would have been his 22nd birthday, or sobriety birthday, and there's another message in there.
You know what? This week saw in the Midwest the targeted assassination of a woman who happened to be a poet, and a mother of two or three, by ICE agents. And it was a cold-blooded killing, completely unjustified. She was pulling away because she was frightened because all these armed men were screaming at her and pointing guns at her, and they shot her in the head. They shot her in the face. And I was thinking how this film is very much a rebuke of that version of America. Perhaps these two Americas have always coexisted, but it feels like we are now in a life or death struggle for the country. And this movie is a portrayal of the best of us, like where from whatever your background is, rich, poor, whatever, you believe at your heart that this country is enriched by immigration. I mean, think about the song America that you talked about before. It's all about immigration. Neil Diamond made a movie about immigration called The Jazz Singer. This film coming right now, I know we like to dust it up a little bit with politics every now and then. This film couldn't have come at a better moment. We need films like this right now.
We really do. I found the quote from his last message from his 22nd sober birthday. If we can all look out for each other and make the world a better place. That's what he was. That's the message he left to his son. I hope this gets some success come Oscar time. It's such a powerful movie. And Hugh Jackman, I mean, I loved him in The Greatest Showman, one of the greatest singing movies. I have actually have the soundtrack, used to listen to it with my son. And there's actually one of the final scenes in the movie right before he dies in the back seat. He was minutes away from meeting his idol. And that's what we're talking about with the roller coaster ride of tragedy in this movie. He's minutes away from meeting Neil Diamond right after he plays this big show, which he banged his head in and plays through just because he doesn't want to tell his wife, he doesn't want to tell his kids that he's hurting. But you can just tell through the performance that he's hurting. There's this one scene where Lightning looks over to his daughter and he's almost mouthing help me, and he turns it into the crowd and he's like, oh, the crowd needs to help me, and he makes it through the performance, and they go to have custard. Total Wisconsin play at this
Yeah,
point.
real place, and it figures in the doc too.
Yeah, and he doesn't make it, and then and instead of meeting Neil Diamond, it fades into the funeral basically, of this
Yeah,
man's
they,
life.
they they fudge some of the facts of the life towards the end, but again, it's for dramatic purposes and it's totally legit. Yeah, but yeah, in the end, after he passes, there's a very beautiful picture in the doc of Neil Diamond hugging Thunder. So Neil Diamond made a point of honoring her when he did pass through town the next time, brought her on stage, the special guest, and actually Eddie Vedder sent a guitar to the widow, that he had commented on, and you see it in the movie. Wow, it's a fine guitar. He sends that very guitar to the widow after lightning passes.
You're always bringing out the literary sensations for our pod, Dave. And I wanted to talk about, I always like to go back to my Cahill Gibran days. And I always think it's important to talk about these stories that the deeper you can dig a hole sometimes, the more you can fill it up with joy. Sometimes the sadness in these movies, they are sad and they do bring you down, but usually a good movie can fill up that sadness with joy at the same time, and you can experience the highs and lows, and it brings you closer to real life actually is for these characters.
If you have a chance to catch this one, definitely do. It's a gem.
I agree. That's all. Till the next episode. Thank you.